All right, welcome to another episode of Closers or Losers. My name is Jeremy Miner. I'm the chairman of Seventh Level. I'm here with our co-host, Matt Ryder, our CEO. How is Australia doing, Matt?
Good. It's a sunny day. It's beautiful. Other than everything else that's going on, that's all I plan on thinking about.
Staying out in the warm weather of Australia. Well, no, actually, it's cold there right now. It's like your winter and our summer here, right?
It is, but it's not really cold.
Well,
but it's cold for here.
It's moderate. Let's just put it that way. All right. So I want to welcome everybody here to another episode. Today, we're going to do a little bit different. We always focus on a training that's going to help you sell more, help your team sell more. But today we're going to talk more to people who are entrepreneurs, who are business owners, and we're going to talk about really what it takes to build a successful, stable company. And the reason why we're bringing that up is almost 2 months ago, we had applied for the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies. You go through a stringent application process. You have to send in all your financials. You have to get it all signed off by your CPA. You got to prove the revenues that you made for 2020. And there's like millions of companies that apply for this award. It's a big prestigious award here in the United States. Okay. In fact, there was like 7.3 million applicants. So 7.3 million companies applied for the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies in the United States. You always apply like 4 months after the year. So we were applying for 2020. We sent in all the applications. We sent in all the revenues. We did great in 2020. We're doing 5 times better than that in 2021. But I really, when we sent that in, I'm like, there's no way we're going to get this. Like, we're doing really, really well, but top 5,000 companies in the United States, I don't know about that. Fastest growing. We're not talking about Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 companies, but fastest growing companies in the United States. And there's qualifications you have to meet. You have to do at least $3 million in sales. It can't be like, we made $1 last year and then, this year we made 800,000. So we're the fastest growing company. Doesn't work like that. There's certain qualifications. And we made the top 5,000, right? So Matt, I remember you telling me, because they emailed you first because you're the CEO. What was going on in your mind when you actually got the email that says you made the Inc. 5000 fastest growing?
Yeah, it was crazy because like we said, we didn't think that we would get anywhere near it because we weren't really that happy with the growth. Obviously, it was good growth, but we wanted more. And I think if we were able to rise up to now, we'd be a lot higher up the list. But yeah, I was super happy that we got it. And obviously, we're only a small team, so to be able to compete with some of those larger companies a lot of those companies have gotten startup capital. A lot of them have used venture capital or venture debt or like large bank loans or whatever to fund it. But we funded through sales and profits.
We just funded it through sales.
Yeah, exactly. Funnily enough. So I think if there was a subcategory for people who didn't accept funding, I think we'd be even higher again, So I was very happy and super happy with the team. And obviously everyone's worked super hard to get there.
Everybody's worked super hard. So we made the Inc. 5000 list, but today they had a virtual event today. Matt, you were still sleeping. Obviously it was like 3 a.m. when the event was going on. I was on there and they released the rankings. So they actually tell you what ranking you're going to be on. They do this big ceremony. It's like this big virtual event. And they come on there and there's like this whole episode. And then they just send you the number. Yeah, I just want to be upfront with everybody. I thought we were going to be like 4,999. Now I didn't care because I'm like, hey, we made the top 5,000. That's great. Like I never even thought. So if we got 4,999, Matt, I was be like, dude, that is awesome.
Yeah.
We got 1,232. I was really surprised. Like I thought, okay, maybe 3,500, 4,000, 4,500, 4,800, anything, we'll take anything. But when they said 1,232, I'm like, wow, we are in the top 1,200 companies, fastest growing in the entire United States of America. And we're talking out of millions of companies, 7.3 million companies applied for this award, and we're 1,232. Now, for me and Matt, we're like, man, that's, that was really good, but that's not where we want to be, right? What were your thoughts when you heard we got 1,232?
Very surprised, but also kind of makes me feel like, oh, that's great because then we can get top 500 next year.
Yeah, because our revenues for 2021, where we're at now, like we already, what we've done in half of 2021 is already like more than twice what we did in 2020. We still got half the year left. We still got 5 months left, right? So we're way ahead of that. So, we keep on this pace, we're definitely going to be in the top probably 400 or 500, maybe even higher than that. So that's exciting. But I want to be be, if you're an entrepreneur right now, or you're a business owner, or let's say that you're a sales professional and you're like, I'm really getting good at sales. I'm honing my craft because one day I want to start my own company. There's a lot more that goes into it than you know. I can assure you of that. Okay. So me, with my sales track record, my 17-year sales career, I worked for companies. I was either a W-2 salesperson or a 1099 sales rep. Most of you know my story. I made multiple 7 figures a year in commissions in 4 separate industries from age 21 all the way till I started 7th level, 3 years ago or something like that. I'm in my early 40s now, getting old. I feel like I'm 80 sometimes. So it was like the top of the keep. Like I was ranked number 45th in the world, selling anything by the Direct Selling Association, all this stuff. And I thought, well, top salespeople in the entire world, like going over and starting my own company, it's going to be like easy. Like I'm going to make billions of dollars. But I learned really quickly the first 2 years before Matt was here as a CEO, when I was like the CEO and it was like me, it was my executive assistant, Beth Jolly. Thank heavens for her. She kept everything together a lot of times. It was just a couple of people on the team. I didn't really know what I was doing. Like going from sales and like sales management, I was a VP of sales before I was a chief sales officer. But going from that to actually making all of the decisions as a CEO, completely different ballgame. And the first couple of years, even though we made 7 figures in sales, like millions of dollars in sales, low 7 figures, we weren't that profitable because we were just throwing money left and right. I didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to market. We had all these testimonials and people going through the training were getting results. Our clients were, but we weren't making that much money. And I got to the point where after a couple of years, it's like, man, is this really worth it? Like I'm making 10% than what I used to make just as a salesperson. And I'm working twice as many hours pulling my hair out. Matt, give everybody some advice on sometimes it's not so easy starting your own company.
No, it's really not. And I think I was in a very similar boat. Like when I was a personal trainer, once I got to the army, I became a personal trainer. And then from there, it was like, I was a successful personal trainer. And I was like, oh, I'll just build a gym because it can't be that hard. Having really no idea how to sell, no idea how to market, nothing. What I was fortunate enough, my dad was quite a successful business person. And he instilled a lot of business values in me where made me write business plans and he made me break down all the businesses that I worked for when I was a kid, figure out the profit and losses and their, manufacturing or their distribution networks. And he sort of sat down with me and we figured out what these guys' profit was and like all that kind of stuff. So my dad was really into that and he wanted me to understand that. So, and then whenever I had to buy a car or I wanted to go do something, he would make me write like a sales pitch for it. So I should like present why he should help me fund it or whatever. Right. And so I had a good sounding board and someone who was good at business to be able to kind of guide me in the way that I needed to. Sure. And then from there, I started to realize that the thing that I liked most about, say, owning gyms was the business side of things. Yeah. Right. And I enjoyed the sales side of things as well. And then I met you. But what I really enjoy is like the strategic part of business in the same way that I enjoy sales as like a strategy. Like it's a good thing. But I think there's a very big difference between, a lot of companies are run by people who are good marketers or good at sales and marketing, but that's like very different to business. And for the people who are out there, like understanding what you're good at and what you're not is incredibly important. And then understanding that a smaller piece of a bigger pie is a good thing.
Well, what I found the first 2 years is like, in order to have a successful company, it's not just having, in my thoughts, the best training out there that's getting these people results, but it's actually knowing how to run the actual business, because you can get all these companies and all these salespeople, all these results. But if you're spending more money than you make, so you don't know what to charge, you don't know how to set up everything the right way, you don't know how to scale, you don't have the right people to market. If you don't have the right team, it doesn't matter how great your products or services are, you're really not going to go anywhere. So to me, I had to figure that out just going through like 2 years of trial and error, trying to think I could do it all myself with this small team without anybody like a real CEO. I wasn't a CEO. And then we brought Matt in as the CEO and business partner, with equity in the company, and the company just started hand over fist growing every month. What have we been growing the last 6 months? Like 25% on average each month. We're growing every month, 25% more.
Yeah, we've been averaging between like 24 and 31% per month. Yeah. That's gross revenue month on month. So if it's 100, it's 124 the next month, and then it goes up 24% that, 25, 25, 20. So we've come a long way. There will be some boring periods where the growth won't quite be that, but those are all there's intentional business decisions and things that need to be made, and lots of things that have to be done to facilitate that kind of growth. And we're in a great position to where, the one thing that a lot of businesses have to worry about is their sales. And that's the one thing that we never have to worry about.
That's the one thing we never have to worry about here, because our people, like our account executives, our management team, I mean, they're all trained how to communicate and sell property. So we didn't have to worry about that. But until Matt came on and we brought in this team, we brought in our vice president of sales, Marco Cortese, which is a beast, in 2020, like we just made him the vice president of sales in 2021. But in 2020, he was a client, worked for another company. And he made over $1 million that year in commissions selling for that company as a 1099 rep. We were training him. We were like, we need to get him over here. Now he's the vice president of sales. And for the last 6 months, sales keep going back up, right? So you get the right people in that are leaders, that are running your sales people, that are motivating them, that are intrinsically motivating them to want to perform. You get in the right marketing teams. And when you came on board in 2020 as a CEO and we had some marketing companies in there, we were getting somewhat good results, but then we realized that we could be getting a lot better results, right? So we had to make some hard decisions and let go.
We had to let go of some people, and then also I think take over parts of it ourselves, and then from there try and find some partners who understood, I think, the vision, the mission, the values of the company to where they could accurately put out to the marketplace what it is we wanted to do. Yeah, and then there was just some good lessons there, I suppose, in giving people a little bit too much rope, but we grew the entire time, and I think we learned a lot. I think one of the good things about when marketing kind of doesn't go the way that you want it, you tend to really tighten up your sales process. Yeah. And so over that period, the sales team really, really dialed in. We got really, really tight on all the essentials like follow-up referrals and just all that kind of stuff that really maximizes all of the ad dollars. And now that we're partnering with someone who can really get the leads in from the front end to the group or whatever, it's now a case where everything's kind of firing on all cylinders. And now we're just looking at diversifying that because we don't want to be too heavy leveraged of any one platform, right? So
a ton of leads from Facebook advertising, but then you're like, look, what if Facebook just hey, we're going to shut down tomorrow and you can only post about cats? Well, what are we going to do then?
Yeah. Yes. And it's worth thinking about. It really is. My time in the Army made me the one thing I think that it really gave me in business was, besides the hard work and the work ethic and all that kind of stuff, is the fact that I like to think about the worst case scenarios. So it's hey, what if Mark Zuckerberg just decides to shut down Facebook advertising and turn it into a charity? It's okay.
No, right?
I can't predict that dude's behavior. So it's okay, let's leverage ourselves with YouTube, and then let's leverage ourselves with Instagram and LinkedIn. But also let's take all these people into platforms that we can control, like text and email, our website. I'm even considering doing some sort of subreddit stuff so we can have some platforms that we can have more control over, and then we're redundant. So if any one thing goes down, we can still run the business, right? And I think that's a lot of business owners these days don't think that way. They kind of throw money at everything, something that's working and that's working right now, without thinking about some of the possible consequences or ramifications of not diversifying, which to me is terrifying.
I think it's so true because I see, I've got some friends that are business owners, and the only way they make revenue is by leads that they have in Facebook groups. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do if Facebook decides that they don't want to do Facebook groups anymore? If they're just you know what, these Facebook groups are too whatever, we're getting too many complaints, people are posting political stuffs or whatever, and they just decide they want to shut it down. He's like, well, that'll never happen. Facebook will never do that. I'm like,
of course they will.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, business pages used to be the way that, I have a friend and they ran an online fitness business that they ended up selling their share of it for $35 million. She was an online fitness coach, really. And she did everything organically through her Facebook business page. They didn't really have to give Facebook any money, and they made a ton of money because that was back when the content algorithms worked out. And then Facebook actually flew them over to Facebook, right, to meet with them. And it was under the guise of oh, hey, you guys have done so amazing. We'd love to learn about your strategy so we can help people do the same.
Yeah.
Then what they did is they basically figured out that there were algorithmic loopholes, and they closed them. And then from that day on, right, from after that meeting with the people that I know, right, Facebook business pages got absolutely no engagement.
I didn't know that happened because I remember when I first started Seven Bubble before you came on board, this was almost 3 years ago, I had 70 some thousand people on my Facebook page, and we were getting a lot of leads from that. And then all of a sudden they didn't start coming in. I didn't know why, but that makes sense. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So then you had to start paying for everybody to see, and it started with boost posts. And then I was advertising on Facebook, in the early days of Facebook advertising. And it was an absolute war zone. It was hilarious. You could edit the ads after they got approved.
Wow.
So what I used to do is as a fitness guy, I used to get my ads approved and my ad would say, come down to the gym and check us out. And then I'd edit it and it'd be like, lose 10 kilos guaranteed. This kind of raucous stuff to try and break through the crowd. It wasn't that bad. But
okay,
yeah,
so it's like the wild, wild west 10 years.
Oh yeah, back in the early days. This is like 2012 Facebook advertising. So
9 years ago, look how many changes have happened in 9 years.
yeah. And like now we're going through a part where Facebook groups and personal pages are really powerful. At some stage, I think they're going to struggle to set down the personal pages, but the Facebook groups, I think there's probably a plan Facebook to monetize that to where you're going to start to have to pay to get a certain percentage of the people in the group to see it. So which is going to, again, increase the cost. So, these things are coming. They're not going to allow us to play this game where we don't really have to give them much money, for much longer. So it's just about having a bunch of different strategies and then working with people who are constantly, I guess, on that cutting edge and just being leveraged against a bunch of stuff. Like if we have 100 leads a week from Facebook and 100 leads a week from Instagram and 100 leads a week from LinkedIn and 100 leads a week from, our website, sweet. If one of them goes down, okay, it's fine. We can just ramp up
more
spend
money
on the other ones.
Platforms. I think so many business owners don't realize that, especially like I said, a lot of you listening right now, you're salespeople, right? You're sales professionals, you're sales managers, you're sales executives, you're working for a company and you're like, oh my gosh, my business owners are making all this money and they're only paying me a couple $100,000 a year, whatever you make. And, if you're really good, you make 3, 4, 500,000 a year, but the owners are flying around in jets and everything. And I think a lot of salespeople and management teams who are not owners don't realize the cost that goes in, like the profit margins, the risk. I don't think they realize all that. And then they go in and start a business and it's like they get freaking smashed in the face. And then they're like, oh, this is a lot harder than what I thought it was. So
yeah, the person who gets the highest reward is the person who's taken the highest risk, right? Like that's just the way it works. Because I start making more money within the businesses that we run. Sometimes you do have to have that conversation. I'm like, okay, man, let's say something happens, black swan event, right? A bunch of money gets thrown out of the bank accounts and all of a sudden all the leads go down and you send me an invoice for $50,000. I was like, can I come back to you and say, I can't pay it, man, because of all this stuff? It's like, no. Okay, so I'll pay it out of my personal money. Will you pay the other guys out of your personal money? It's like, no. Okay, so I accept the risk, therefore I get the reward, right? Like that's the way it works, man. Like that's just how business is. High risk investment strategies are high reward investment strategies, right? But sometimes they blow up in your face.
It's so true. I didn't even realize that. Like I remember my first year that I made over $2 million that year in commissions. Just that year, I made like 2.4 million in commissions that year. I was like, oh my gosh, the owners must be making like $100 million. Like I get paid a pittance compared to what they're making. And when I really met with them and rolled back the books that year, I actually made more than the CEO and the actual president of the company. Both of them were on salaries of like 500,000 a year, which is still great, but I made over $2 million a year as commissions. Now I earned that. Like I worked my butt off to make that. But I thought like, oh, well, since I made this much in commissions, they must be making $30 million each. But I didn't know all the expenses and structure that they were structuring their business and really wanting to grow it and get it bigger and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you just don't realize that. So if you're listening right now, you're a sales professional, you're in sales management, you got to really weigh out those factors and kind of know what you're getting into. Now, I think being a business owner is great. You first have to learn how to sell. If you don't really have the skills to run a business, like I didn't have that, right? I knew how to train salespeople. I knew how to sell. That's what I was good at. But until I brought on like Matt as the CEO, obviously knew how to sell as well. But he really had his greatest skill was like running a company until you have that type of team. So if you're going to partner with somebody, you need to look for somebody that has that type of skill that can communicate the message, but also has really unique business skills, could actually run and scale a business. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, I think like understanding what you're good at, what you're not good at is key. And I think a lot of business owners just haven't figured that out. And so they think that they can kind of do everything. Yeah. Also, I think if you're trying to grow, like you got to really sit down and consider like, am I trying to grow this thing? Because if I am, when you're in an aggressive growth phase, a lot of the time, you're not going to take much money out, right? And so it's like, there's lots of sacrifices that have to be made and decisions that need to be made. And so you need to have like a good team in place. It's essential, even if you have to, like you gave me equity, right? Like a lot of people would say, don't give up equity. It's like, well, no, I'd rather have, if you identify a lack of skill set, then it's like, okay, cool. You put the the person in, incentivize them to grow it to where then they can take their skill set and go from there. Same with like Marco and people like that. Like those people are workhorses and they have particular skill sets, but like there's so many other decisions that need to be made. Marco's so singular focused on marketing, sales, and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot that would get missed if he ran his own business right now. He could for sure do it later on. But
yeah, he has those skills, but he wouldn't have the same skills you have, or at least not yet.
Yeah, exactly. And so I've been running businesses now for nearly 15 years, and I've, run businesses that have had 100 employees, with the gyms and brick and mortar, and then helped with a bunch of other stuff, and then consulted for large multinational equipment suppliers and all that kind of stuff. So I've got kind of a breadth of experience that's allowed me to kind of understand what I know and what I don't know. And then I like working with people because I come from that SF background. I like having that small team environment. So I've always been someone who's like, yeah, let's bring those people in. Like, let's utilize what they're good at. And from there, we can all win together, which is why I like when, we chatted with our new Instagram and like LinkedIn guy, and they came to us with their big, giant, comically enormous bill. I was like, well, we don't know how to do it. It's like, what are we going to do?
Well, we have to look at it like, look, we're not doing anything on those platforms. We're doing really well on Facebook, but like, we got to diversify. We got to start bringing in more leads for companies that want sales training. They're looking at us, but they don't see us on LinkedIn. We've got to have more of a presence there. We got to have more of a presence on Instagram. We don't know how to do that. So we went and found best company to actually do that. Now we pay them a ton of money. It's a huge retainer. It's a huge retainer. Multiple six-figure a year retainers. We're growing like rapidly, right? 5,000 fastest growing companies in the United States. But still, when you're paying a company multiple six figures a year, multiple, not just 100,000, we're talking multiple six figures a year retainer.
It's like $100,000 a quarter.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? Like 300 400 grand retainer. Yeah. But they already have a huge reputation in IG and LinkedIn and have produced massive results for large companies, way bigger than ours in many different industries. And so we're like, look, we've got the funds, we've got the cash, we've budgeted well. Let's start dominating on those channels, those platforms, and be able to 3X our leads, be able to 3X our sales. So you got to be able to hold some of that cash flow, that money back, instead of just paying it all yourself, to be able to invest in those type of services.
Yeah.
People that are good, not just any amateur.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where like those what you're talking about, understanding the costings and all that kind of stuff. That's where really understanding your business model comes into play, because there's gross profit, there's net profit, right? And like your gross profit is going to be determined by how well you've modeled your business, right? So if you have like a 40% gross profit, that's not going to work. Yeah. You need to have like a 70% gross, or between 60 to 70% gross profit, right? And then your net profit is a series of decisions. So we could tank the net profit of 7th level if we wanted to. Doesn't mean it's a bad business because it's not operating at a high profit if we're making choices to grow it aggressively, And so that's why, like for me, I know a lot of business owners that I speak to, they really focus on their net margin. I don't focus on the net margin. I focus on the gross margin, and then I keep track of the net. But then one of the only reasons I've learned to do some of this stuff is because when we were just starting out, other business sales sniper, I took on an equity partner who's like a business analyst. And every single month since we started, we've been having conversations around the numbers and diving deep, and he's been giving his perspective. And this guy retired at 40. Yeah. He lives on a beach in Bali, making a few $100,000 a month personal revenue from the investments that he has, right? And he built his own business and all that kind of stuff. So he's a very, very smart guy. But again, I gave away a good chunk of that business just for his expertise. And I was like, okay, if you can stop me from making mistakes, that will make things go much faster.
It's all about having the right team, right? You have to have the right team in place to be able to grow the business, to be able to scale it. If you don't have the right team in place, it just takes so long. It takes a lot longer, because you eventually have to have the right team in place if you ever want to go anywhere as a business owner. So like I said, if you're a sales professional, you're a small business owner, you're in sales management, and you're looking at starting your own company, realize you've got to learn how to sell. You got to learn how to communicate effectively, because one thing that cures a lot of that is a lot of sales. Sales always cures most things, but for you to be able to sell, it's not necessarily all about sales. It's about your operations, about your financial structure. It's about your team structure. It's about your salespeople structure. There's a lot that goes in there, but sales definitely help that engine roll. If you don't have any sales.
Yeah. Sales is also like the canary in the coal mine, where you can get a really good indicator of the health of the business through what the salespeople are telling you, right? And so like because if they're getting complaints, if someone's not happy with delivery, they're going to tell the sales guy,
100%.
Right? If they have a bad admin issue, they're going to tell the sales guy. So I think a lot of business owners just write off salespeople as like they should just shut up and make sales and nothing else they say matters. But it really is. If you listen to them, you'll get a lot of insight into the business, into things that you probably won't see or can't see because you're blinded by it, which is fair enough because it's your baby, quote unquote. And then if you are a sales guy and like you're working for companies right now or you're interviewing for companies, I really think a valid question, especially if you're one of the commission only guys, is like, how diversified is your marketing strategy? It's something that I always ask when people want to work with us. It's just like, how many lead generation mechanisms are you? How many irons in the fire do you have? Like, what are you doing to ensure like success? If you go to work for a company, they're like, oh yeah, we do Facebook advertising. And
what happens,
is that it?
Yeah. What happens if Facebook shuts down your account?
Yeah. Like, especially for coaches and consultants, it's like, do you have a podcast? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have Facebook ads? Do you have a group? Do you have an email list? Do you have like a phone number list? Do you have lead magnets? Do you have YouTube? It's like, if you don't have this stuff, or do you have like a product ladder, an ascension model? Like, what do you have that I can work with to where if leads go down for a month or two, I can still make money?
It's true. 100%. All right, Matt, thanks for being on here. We're right at the top of the hour here. So we're going to end it right now. Go to Facebook group. If you haven't joined the Facebook group, a lot of people keep messages on podcasts and they're just like, how do I learn more about you guys? You want to learn more details. You want to learn about the training options that we have where we help companies to sell more, individual salespeople to sell more. It doesn't matter. I mean, we have we just counted the other day, 3,436 or 7 testimonials in the last 2 years. It's crazy. Nobody has that. Nobody has that. I just hate to tell everybody that. But everybody's like, wow, that's really a lot. Yeah, nobody has that in our industry.
Yeah.
Not even close. Companies that have been around for 10, 15 years don't have that.
No, it's a ridiculous amount of testimonials.
It's crazy.
We have people just giving us testimonials without us asking for it.
We've never asked for a testimonial.
We get about 3 or 4 a week just on the Facebook group, just people posting random testimonials.
No, it's 3 or 4 a day. You probably don't see them all.
I turn my notifications off.
Yeah, I get all the notifications. So right now we're averaging about 3 to 5 per day. So it's probably about 4 a day times 7. So about 30 a week. So we're getting about 120 new ones a month just in the Facebook group. That's not all the testimonials that we get from people in the training courses. That's not all the testimonials. We'll get people that will just see a random ad and they've gone through the training before and they'll put a testimonial in there for us. We don't even ask for that. If we asked, we might have triple the leads. I don't even know. So if you want to be like those type of people, first step to learn more about us is just join the Facebook group. There's a link here. It's called Sales Revolution. Should be a Facebook group here. You can just click on it. They're going to ask you a couple questions. When you click on it, you just join for free. They just ask you, like, you'll fill out a 3-question survey. What industry are you in? What products or services do you sell? Just helps us keep track of what type of industries and what type of people are in the Facebook group so we can deliver the right type of training. Matt and I and Marco, our vice president, and some of our sales trainers go live about 3 to 5 times a week in the Facebook group with different trainings. We break down sales processes. We do Q&As. We do, like today I did a 40-minute training on the right questions to ask to get your prospects to think results-based thinking over price-based thinking. 40-minute training I went in there. I shouldn't have done that. I gave out too much. And we give a lot of random content. We give little nuggets to you guys to help you. And if you want more details, because I think we give, even though we give away all that, it's like we're giving away like a 0.5% training course. So if you want to know more details, just join the Facebook group. And right when you join, we will DM you free training on objection prevention. So it's a 30-minute training on how to prevent objections from happening in your prospect's mind. You get that for free. And you want to know more details after that, just message us. And either me or Matt, our CEO, or someone else on our team can message you more details to see if we can help. Matt, thanks for being on.
Awesome. Catch you soon, guys. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Hey guys, if you enjoy these, here's another you can watch right over here. Join our free Sales Revolution group. Click the link below, join us, and we're going to help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.